This is the first event of Train2Validate project, and then I will share my screen with you all to speak about what Train2Validate is. Actually, we are working with a kind of methodology, easy to read, that has a specific steps, and then for us, the members of the project, the partners of the project, it's very important to develop some kind of professional developments for a specific role. So if we consider what easy to read is, we find that it is the writing methodology that have some different kind of guidelines for writing text and doing the layout. In Spain, for instance, it is the first country that have a specific standard, and just as a comment, the guidelines in Spain have around 150 different specific rules for tests and layouts. But the main point is that easy to read takes into account the participation of end users as testing. Why? Because easy to read is an inclusive methodology that takes into account that the solution has to be useful for the final user. If not, we are creating just artworks, and it's not the point. We need useful text for people who have a specific comprehension barrier or difficulty. And then, as accessibility solution, it's important that it is built with end users in order to make it functional. Then this methodology, who is focused on text, but has also many developments in last research, for instance, going to subtitling, audio description, and other communication solutions, but the origin is in tests. Then it has different roles, different professional roles. First of all, writers and designers. And the second part are validators and facilitators. Writers are people who create or adapt original text. For instance, if we have an original, then the writer takes into account the standard and applies it to write the content into easy to read. And the designer also applies the specific guidelines so that the layout and the design of the final product will be attractive and also helpful for the comprehension. And then the point is validators and facilitators. Validators are people who are end users and take part as testers. And facilitators are the supporters for these people, because, for instance, many of people who are validator are people, in our case in Spain, with intellectual disability. And as in these working sessions that they do, they have the participation of a facilitator, a supporter that takes into account the comments that they are doing and gather all this information to share with the writer in order to improve the final result of the easy to read text. So this is actually the point for Train2Validate: validators and facilitators. If we consider the easy to read project, as I said, so writers apply the guidelines, and users and supporters do the validation and facilitation. That means assessment and testing. So as you see, this inclusive process have several kinds of roles, but still none of them has a professional certification. In the case of validators and facilitators, how do they work? Firstly, they have a recognition as a part of the process. That is quite important, because if we consider that there are many accessibility solutions for building, for communication, or for any other point, we see that these standards don't consider the role of the final user, but it is in the case of easy to read. For instance, as I say, in the Spanish standard, but also in the forthcoming standard in Germany, or the forthcoming standard, international standard, the ISO, that is going to be developed, and I think it is going to be published in the next month. But the initial point was Inclusion Europe. Inclusion Europe is the European Federation for Supporting the Rights of People with Intellectual Disabilities. And Inclusion Europe has written the first standard of easy to read and the first guidelines for easy to read. And it took from the beginning into account the role of validators. But even more, they take into account the role also for the origin, the creation of the text, of the easy to read text, because they consider that we have to listen to the real needs of people with reading difficulties. And then, what is Train2Validate? Train2Validate is an Erasmus Plus project that wants to create the specific training for these roles. We have already the standard, we have already the rules, the guidelines, but how to turn into a professional pathway? That's the way in which we are going to work in Train2Validate. And that's our main goal. The creation of new specific professional profiles with a certified training for the production of easy-to-read materials for these both roles, validators and facilitators. And it is important to make visible that the point is a certified training, not some kind of training. We would like to create a certified one because we want to build the possibility that people that become validator and facilitator have a professional future and a real professional slot in the production of easy to read. The specific objectives of our project are the professionalization, as I said, and the certification. That's the main 2 points. But we also want to contribute to an increase of the quality of the easy-to-read production. The production of easy-to-read text has increased a lot in the last years, but the question is that we perceive that there are some of them that claim as easy to read, but they aren't. And they don't comply with the standard that should do. And one of the points is, if we create a professional pathway for these validators and facilitators, we will contribute also that the final quality of the easy-to-read text will also soar in many cases. Of course, it is not a project to do alone. We are in the European Union and we have to be part of any European view. And that's why we have a wide consortium with people from several countries that have a very important contribution in the final result. And of course, the point also is that we need a social and sectorial recognition of the easy to read, because it is an accessibility solution, but it is not a second level solution. We want to obtain this recognition as a professional solution, and that's the main point, because easy to read, it's very important for the inclusion of many people that have daily reading difficulties. What are going to be the global results for us? Well, we are going to produce 6 intellectual results, 6 different kinds of reports with specific results that I'm going to speak now, and 5 dissemination events. This is the first one, but every 6-7 months we will going to develop another event to speak about the results that we have obtained and share with all people. And of course, we want to develop a strong communication with different channels, with associated partners and stakeholders. We have a stakeholders network. We have built a stakeholders network, but we have also built a network of associated partners. And additionally, we have an advisory board with several experts that contribute with their knowledge to the best final results. And this project, the term are 3 years, and it's going to be closed in August 2023. So we are around our first year of the development of the project. This is the first presentation, and then we are actually very satisfied that we can share with all of you our first results. As a specific result, what are these 6 intellectual outputs, as it is called in the Erasmus Plus vocabulary? Well, the first of all is the definition of a common methodological framework, which is going to be the goal of the current event. The second is the skills cards for both profiles, validators and facilitators. We need to define the specific competencies and the specific abilities that these both roles need to become professional. And then we are going to create this modular curriculum with the teaching guidelines. Our wish would be that we can build some kind of certification of courses that can also be applied, for instance, in the university. And of course, we are going to create the open educational resources. These educational resources will be available for all in our website. And we are going to share these products in order to contribute to the widen of this kind of courses, of easy to read courses for validators and facilitators. As we are building an accessible methodology, we are going also to evaluate these resources with specific tools, and we obtain these tools and recommendations are also available for all interested, so that everyone can implement this kind of courses in their curriculum or in their institution. And finally, we are going to research about the possible certifications, official certifications, depending on the structure, the legal structure of each country. Initially from our partners, but we hope that we can plant a seed so that other countries can explore some ways of official certification for our development. Our partnership is a very well-balanced structure of 3 universities, the Scuola Superiore per Mediatori Linguistici from Pisa, Italy, the SDI Munich in Germany, and the Polytechnic University of Timisoara in Romania. Then we are also 3 non-profit organizations, Fundația Profesional from Romania, Zavod Riza from Slovenia, and Plena Inclusión Madrid from Spain as a leader partner. And finally, a certifier, which is the European Certification and Qualification Association, which is very focused in this kind of professional certifications. So, as you see, it's a very well-balanced structure because we have the theoretical and methodological knowledge from the universities, the practical on the field knowledge from the non-profit organizations, and a certifier that switch both in order to create the perfect result. So this is what is going to be Train2Validate, and I hope that it will be interesting for all of you, and I open now for any of the questions that you have.